Republicans and Democrats push for a power grab in Tuesday's midterm elections, a vote that could see a setback for Joe Biden's administration or a major advance in control for Republicans. To go to the matter, we invite Professor and analyst Dany Shaw. Hello, Dany.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you to you for being here. And according to the polls, after the 2 years of his election victory, President Joe Biden remained as an underachiever for the many U.S. citizens. And let us recall that disastrous troops withdrawal from Afghanistan, the economic recession, and inflation. The legal setbacks on abortion rights as well. Today, The Hill reported his approval dropped as a percentage point after the Biden said that this is not a referendum. So, how does the political panorama look for Joe Biden and the Democrats in these elections?
Every midterm election functions contrary to what Joe Biden has said is a referendum on the actual president. And what we've seen in the years of George Bush, in the years of Obama, and in the years of Trump, we've seen the actual president's party in the midterm elections lose many seats. And right now, those are the political prognostications for what's going to happen in the next 24 hours or so as the results come in. 75% of Americans, according to one poll, don't approve of Biden's performance, specifically with the economy. The Democrats have failed to really address inflation. 37% of voters are saying that inflation is their number one issue, followed by abortion. From the right wing, we have the Republicans running campaigns around crime and immigration. They again stick to these talking points that Philadelphia and New York City and all of the cities led by liberal mayors have no control over crime. They grossly exaggerate crime statistics. During the World Series last week, we saw ads over and over stating that if the Democrat won the House race in Pennsylvania, it would be a free pass for killers. And this is the type of sensationalism that they're using, very similar with their campaign around the border, characterizing it as Kamala Harris's crisis and Joe Biden's crisis, while they ignore very conveniently, very selectively, how many decades and centuries of the exploitation of Central America and the rest of the hemisphere.
Yeah. And on the other hand, Republicans keep their Make America Great Again movement, even aside of Trump, with their narrative that presidential elections were stolen by pointing to Biden's failures, mostly in the economy. If they persuade voters and gain control of the House and the Senate, how will it be like for Biden's remaining term?
Well, Biden's already struggled to pass through any type of progressive legislation. We saw how Build Back Better, the massive economic New Deal after the coronavirus, was extremely watered down, and not just by Republicans, but by Democrats within. So there's certainly no consensus within the Democratic Party on some of these important economic issues. It looks right now like the Republicans will increase their advantage in the House. The Democrats right now have a razor-thin margin in the Senate. It looks like they'll lose that lead. So the next 2 years are going to be very difficult for the incumbent president. Very interesting that no one's talking about the U.S.-NATO war on Russia and the $115 billion of our taxpayer money that in the most undemocratic ways has gone to this proxy war designed to surround and bleed Russia. And of course, Ukraine is trapped in the middle of this proxy war, and Ukrainian families are the ones most suffering, along with Russian families. And this is not even on the table in all of these debates, where we see Trump right now in Pennsylvania, we see Nikki Haley, we see other extreme reactionaries going to their base. And I think this is a very polarizing moment for America, but it's very noticeable how the absence of any anti-war discourse coming from any of the candidates.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting all the situation that the North American people is going through in these midterm elections. And lastly, Latin America is seeing an uprising of lefties and progressive governments that have a clear distance towards U.S. interventionism policies and unfair trade with the region. How could this shift the power balance in these elections, taking into account the Latino vote?
The Latino vote is key. The Latino vote historically has gone to the Democrats, with some exceptions, particularly in Miami, in southern Florida, where the majority of the Cuban American voters have solidly voted Republican. For a lot of Latino voters, the issue of immigration is very important. Some 1 million plus immigrants have been turned back from the border just in 2022. And Latino families want peace and economic justice back home, whether it's in Honduras or the Dominican Republic or Mexico or across the continent. We've seen many left-wing, pink tide, Bolivarian victories, most recently 2 Sundays ago in Brazil. Hopefully this will fortify the integration and the unity of Latin America, where preventing so many families from Central America and from the Southern Cone who've been forced to migrate against their will. These have been involuntary migrations that are the historical result of IMF dictates and World Bank dictates. They've continually pillaged these countries. These pink tide victories will hopefully mean that more people can find economic justice and dignified work opportunities in their homelands and not be forced to immigrate in an involuntary way, in a way that has forced so much suffering. And of course, this is one of the main Republican issues, to scapegoat in a xenophobic and white supremacist way all of these immigrants who are fleeing nothing more and nothing less than the dictates of the State Department and the Pentagon and the war economy of the United States. So there's a lot that we will be monitoring tonight. Latin America is certainly, and the Caribbean are certainly sources of an incredible amount of hope for anti-imperialist forces around the world. I don't think we'll see that type of hope come out of the United States tonight. The real battles are in the streets against police brutality, in the workplace. We've seen more strikes, particularly at Starbucks, and more workplace strikes in 2022 than we've seen in previous years. I think that's what we also have to monitor as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Dany, for this interview and the information you brought us on the program.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.